The Birth Circle podcast features experts in all the nuanced areas of pregnancy, birth, and postpartum with the aim of helping women make the choices that will keep them safe, healthy, and empowered. We respect all birth choices and believe in supporting informed consent and evidence-based practices. Nothing said on this podcast should be taken as medical advice. You should always seek the advice of a competent professional for your care. Welcome to the Birth Circle podcast.
This is Sarah with Birth Circle, and today I am so excited to have Bettina Gordon-Wayne with me. And Bettina is a seasoned journalist, a best-selling author, and a certified mental strength trainer who helps women overcome their limiting beliefs around age and start or expand their families when the time is right for them. And that's even if it's over the age of 40, because she thinks that's actually the best time. As a European living in the USA, Bettina has reinvented herself multiple times in her life, especially recently as she became a first-time mother at the age of 44 and wrote her best-selling book, The Joy of Older Motherhood, which also showcases other women who have had their first kids past their 40th birthdays. I'm really excited to talk about this subject.
Me too, Sarah, me too.
There are a lot of people in this. I mean, there's lots of myths, so we'll just jump right into it. But first, how did you get into the space? How did you reinvented yourself many times? What were some of the other renditions of you, and what brought you to motherhood at age 40?
Yeah, hey, listen, first of all, I'm thinking it's really awesome that you and I were talking about this, because there are millions of women around the world that come to motherhood later in life for a variety of reasons. Most often in my research as a journalist, it is because of love. It's because we haven't found the right partner yet, or our partner is not ready, even if we would like to have children earlier, but our partner is not ready. So it's a combination of that is the primary reason I found why we come to motherhood later in life. And then some of us also have the good fortune to have found work and a career that is really keeping us engaged, and it's vital for us, and it brings us so much joy that maybe that also is the reason why we are looking towards love and starting our families later in life. And the reason why this is so important to me is that I lived through it, and I became a first-time mom at the age of 44. And that made me also the third generation of women in my family who have the children in the 40s. So for me, yes, third generation. And so for me, this is totally normal. It's like, for me, it's like, of course you have kids in your 40s, because you have a life before that you experience and that you enjoy, and all the ups and downs, whatever it is. And then in your 40s, you have a family. And I had a beautiful pregnancy. So I became naturally pregnant at 43, had a beautiful pregnancy, then a natural birth, by the way, which is very often when you're in your 40s, the medical world will tell you you cannot have a natural birth, you should do a C-section. So side note here. But I had a natural birth, and I was sitting, actually, we're having this conversation. I'm in Washington, D.C., and it was in the spring, and I had my child in my arms, and spring in Washington, D.C. means cherry blossoms everywhere. Yeah. So you have these millions of cherry trees, and they're all blooming this beautiful pinkish, the different colors of pink. And I was sitting on my couch with my baby, and maybe it was the hormones after giving birth or just the beauty when you look outside. But I, as a trained journalist, I thought, like, my God, this is so awesome. I want other women to know how great it is to have children in your 40s. Because I had a life before, because I had gained so much experience and so much wisdom and so much joy, that I could sit on the couch with my child and be totally immersed, have not a second of fear of missing out, or the thought I need to go back to my career right away, or I need to do this, I need to do that, that so many of us when we were younger have. I didn't have that. I was completely at peace and centered, and I had decided I'm taking some time off from my career in journalism and just be with my child. And Sarah, so what do I do next? I'm like, okay, I need to write a book. As a journalist, you always come up with a book idea. And I need to write a book about this. And with sitting, my boy's name is Hunter, sitting with Hunter in the crook of my arm, I reached over and opened up the computer. And then I made the colossal mistake that literally every woman around the world with access to a computer makes. I asked Dr. Google for advice.
Oh, bad idea.
Exactly. I mean, but anyway, everybody does
know
this.
better. You were 44. You should know better.
I'm coming to the point. Exactly.
Okay.
I should know better. Exactly. Very good point. So I put in search key phrases like, I don't know exactly anymore, but pregnancy over 35 or pregnancy over 40, something like this. And I hit the return tab. And then, of course, you know this, bam, 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 bam. One negative story after the other. Like starting with, oh, fertility really goes down at 35 and that free fall after 40. All the risks associated for pregnancy, according to the age's mom's age, the other way around, according to the mom's age, all the risks for a child and the mom, all of it, you know. And I swear to you, I do not live under a rock, under a tree. I don't live under a tree. However, do you know why I didn't know about all of this? Because again, I'm third generation of women having the children in the 40s. I had never looked on my phone. I had never done the research. I had never looked for any kind of fertility or infertility stories. So my phone, the algorithm on my phone didn't know that. So I was not presented with all these stories that, like, you look at them once, you get them over and over and over again.
Yeah, so true.
And this is what you read, and this is what becomes your world. I didn't have that. My world was, you can say I was completely ignorant because I was.
So you got pregnant without Googling it all. You just said one day, I would like to get pregnant. You got pregnant naturally, and you had no idea that Dr. Google was so against that.
I really didn't know. Yes,
wow.
I did. Look, I had at the age of 40. So it's a little more nuanced than that. At the age of 40, my husband and I said, who I met later in life, by the way. So we didn't get married until we were in the late 30s, because that's just when we met. And then at 40, we said, okay, we try it. And for a year, we tried. Nothing happened. I didn't get pregnant, nothing. But I was still of that mindset, okay, so what? You know, so it's like, so we did not, usually a couple then seeks out medical help, which we never did.
Oh, got it.
It was a whole other mindset revelation that I had to go through. And this is also the focus of my work today. When I work with women, it's not about helping them physically, because there's a whole big world out there that does that. I'm helping them with their mental and emotional health, which is very, very often overlooked. And especially, so my specialty, if you will, my expertise is for the women that are older, because we are encountering ageism at that phase in our life that you wouldn't believe. And I get to that. It's like, it's really, really crazy. But it is like, already you can see this on Google, when I had one negative story after the other, and I'm thinking, oh my goodness. And I felt, just by reading the headlines, that I got anxious. I got fearful, you know, these emotions were rising up, and I was very conscious about it, because I noticed how this made me feel, and how I went from one world where I was so full of, hey, this is so awesome, I need to tell other women how great that is, yeah, to the other world where it's like full of doubt, anxious, and the feeling like, oh my God, can I even do that? I went from left to right, or the other way, from one of these worlds to the other one, in one Google search page flat.
But you already had your baby at that point.
And I already had my baby. Exactly. This is even the crazier one. But I was so, maybe also after birth, I was so attuned with my body and what I was feeling, that I noticed what's going on. I remember distinctively, I noticed what was going on. It's like, oh shoot, why do I feel so badly all of a sudden? And then I made the connection. And then also, Sarah, what I felt was really the emotion of rage coming over me. I got really, really angry, because I thought, like, it can't be that there are millions of women around the world who want to become moms, but because of a number on their birth certificate, which happens to be the year that they were born, And now the age, but because of just the number of their age, they are made to feel less than fertile, less than capable, often made to feel guilty or ashamed. Why are you coming to this so late in life? Yeah. But these women will one day potentially make the best mothers a child could ever ask for, because they have life experience, because they're older, because they have learned through the years and the decades on earth, but they're made to feel really less than only because of a number. And I said, no, I got angry. I remember that I got angry, and I literally said to my boy Hunter in the crook of my arm, I said, Hunter, we need to do something about that.
He's like, yep, Mom, I'm here.
Well, no, there was not much reaction. He was sleeping, but I took it as a yes. And this, my dear, is how the Joy of Later Motherhood came about. Essentially because I was really angry about the narrative that's out there around later motherhood. But that made me then look for other women who had the children in their 40s. First time. Yeah. First time kids. Yeah.
I just have a question about your pregnancy. So if you're holding your baby and that's when you realize there was such a strong ageism, when you went to your doctor as a pregnant 44-year-old, did they didn't clue you in at all? They just took you as you were, and you had no, like, they just took you as you were?
Yeah. Okay. So two things. When we go back to that 1 year when my husband and I tried, usually the couple then go to a doctor or a fertility clinic, and then you become you cross the border from being patient to becoming the patient.
Right.
And then you are in that, okay, we need to do the test, we need to do this and this and this and this and that. We didn't do that, and I had to work on my mental health. Yeah. And then I had become literally pregnant so easily within just a couple of months at age 43, when we said, okay, let's try this again. And I had signed up, as soon as I was pregnant, I had signed up with a midwife program here in Washington, D.C., where I am. They are specialized on natural birth. And because in Washington, D.C., there are so many more women that are older, that I had gotten into a program, early on. That was the one program, I believe, or one of the few that you have wherever you live, where this was completely normal. My age was never an issue.
Interesting.
They never told, there was no limitation, no nothing. I also must say that I was super healthy.
Yeah.
So to get pregnant naturally, easily at the age of 43, after the years of not getting, so I was mentally prepared. I was emotionally super healthy. I had done my work that I needed to do to be in the best position to conceive. And that's why it happened so quickly. So I was super healthy on all levels. Yeah, not just physically, also mentally, emotionally, dietary was really top. So there was no issue through my pregnancy, and they never made an issue also out of birth. That's why they were actually saying to me, no, you can do this. While other professionals would say to a woman at age 44, you shouldn't do this.
Oh, okay.
That's why.
Yeah. So that's one of the things, if you're looking to become a mother after 40, is to consider health in all aspects of your life.
That is, I mean,
you should anytime, but when you're younger, you can take it for granted that your body is you can do a lot more to it. More abuse.
So when I wrote The Joy of Later Motherhood, and by the way, we forgot to talk about it before, but Sarah, I would really like to offer every woman who is over the age of 35 in this advanced maternal age bracket and already bumps up against that
geriatric pregnancy.
I'm sorry. Yeah, exactly. Who wants to become pregnant? And then it's like, exactly, just the verbiage already.
It's wrong.
Geriatric pregnancy. I mean, what is geriatric about? It is, okay. So I wanted to offer every woman here a free copy of my book, the electronic version, because we need to support each other to change this crazy pants narrative.
Yes. Crazy pants narrative. Yeah.
I mean, it's like, it makes absolutely no sense. Yes.
Okay, yeah, keep going. No, I think you're getting where I'm going to ask anyway.
Yeah. And so so please go to bettinagordon.com/joy to download your free copy. And I know you will have a link below. So when I researched then the joy of later motherhood, I noticed, or I found out, that there is a world of natural fertility practitioners out there that help those couples who often can't achieve the children through an IVF or through the infertility clinics, and then they go there. And what I learned is that the most important phase for the health of your child is actually the preconception phase that the parents are in, and that it is of utmost importance. If you are, I think it is I would say it's of utmost importance, regardless how old you are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But especially if you're over 35 or if you're over 40, when you had more chance to live a lifestyle that is less conducive to health, it is even more important to give yourself 3 to 6, ideally maybe even 9 months to really clean up your health, physically, mentally, emotionally, dietary, spiritually, but really, really physically, before you even try to conceive. Because you want to be as healthy as you can to also improve the quality of your eggs and the quality of your sperm. Before I did the research for the Joy of Later Motherhood, I had no idea that you can improve eggs and sperm quality.
Yeah, I guess I didn't really know that either, and I just made the assumption.
Yeah,
But I feel like so many times the struggles that we suffer as mothers, mental health wise, after, during, and after, I think they are nutritional. And so yes, our bodies are they can more easily conceive, but this is advice for everyone. Clean up your life before you decide, and it makes it so much easier on your body and on you. And then, of course, you get a higher quality of egg if you're worried about the later stages. But
yes, absolutely,
for everyone, but especially older.
Yes, especially. And this is something that I'm really very, very adamant about, because we have also the assumption, like I once saw a woman stand up at the conference, and it was around infertility and IVF, and she stood up and she said something to the regard of, oh no, I love doing IVF because I don't want to quit smoking. There is this crazy assumption that you can, and to a certain extent it may be true, yeah, that you can sidestep whatever physical issues you may have, whatever mental or emotional issues you may have, you can sidestep it by doing IVF. So to not give up whatever, but that doesn't really work. IVF is not the end all be all. It's not a guaranteed. In fact, the chances of IVF working, you really have to look into this. I don't want to do some wrong, because it depends also on the statistics on the age, but it is not particularly high. It's somewhere in between 10 and 15% or so if you are at a certain age. So you have to prepare for both natural conception and IVF either way. And I'm just adamant of really saying, over late 30s, early 40s, mid 40s, whatever it is, the most important phase also for the health of your child, whatever you and your partner are doing right now, you are cleaning up your sperm and the egg cells so that you also make a healthy baby, which is super important. Of course, we can never know, something can go always wrong, but we also know that the older we are, the chances that the child has some kind of disability, not disability, but that genetically things can go a little haywire, that the child is just not optimally healthy the older we get. For that is so important that we really prepare, that we really get into the optimal health before we even try to conceive, to also decrease the chances.
Yeah, because that's one of the big fears, is that the chance of Down syndrome, the chances of other genetic disorders go up significantly. So are you saying that's mostly health related, that nutrition related before conception, that's just a myth because we tend to be less nourished as like what is
That is actually now, if you would want to break this down, you
break it down?
would have to, you would have to talk to a doctor, which I am not. So I know my
Got
track
it.
and I stay in my lane. What I can tell you from the years of research that I have done for the book and ever since, all the natural fertility practitioners that I'm speaking to, the ones that really help the couples that have tried for 3, 5, 10 years, and have done many rounds of IVFs, all of them say that you should take 3 to 6 to 9 months in order to prepare your physical health. This it should be your number one priority, but not the only one. It's not just physical health, it's also mental health, emotional health. That's my specialty. Nutrition, it is so important, getting all the toxicity, all the toxins that we have in our life to a bare minimum. You cannot eradicate everything, but from the pesticides and the herbicides in our food, to have a really good water filter at home, to drink just the cleanest water, because our tap water is polluted to no end, to having a good environment at home, like get all the cleaning supplies out of your house and get the really good stuff in the Environmental Working Agency, EWA. Please go there and check them out, what they are recommending. Our beauty products, Sarah, we as women, the beauty product is not regulated by the FDA. You can literally, what you buy today at the CVS or Walmart, doesn't matter which chain it is, when you buy a product, you cannot assume the product is safe.
No,
you cannot assume that the chemicals in there are actually not bringing you harm. In fact, they do. We put something on like 500 chemicals before we even leave the house, through our makeup, through our shampoo, through our whatever we put in our hair, and that accumulates over time.
Yeah.
This is where we go to the age again. So you have to get all these toxins out before you start trying. The other day, my child, so this chair that I'm sitting on, if you turn it around, and I didn't even know that until recently, if you turn it around, there is a label on it, that says, this chair is made with blah, 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 whatever chemical that is, proven to cause cancer and infertility.
The joke is only in California though. But yeah, no, a lot of those things have labels. Yeah,
in California though, that maybe.
Yeah. But only if you're in California.
Only if you're in California, exactly. For me here, no, it's all good.
Exactly.
This is the craziness, and we don't even know it. So this is why it's so important.
Yep.
To take care of that. And the older you get, the more vigilant you have to be, because the sidestepping with IVF, the chances are slim. Do you know what I mean? That this really works. Yeah, so that's really important. The preconception phase is the most important, and then phase of and also because your child's health, all the organs, everything is formed by 8 weeks in utero.
Right.
So
that's usually when you're finding out you're pregnant, or a little bit before. So think the course is, the trajectory is set. So
exactly.
Yep.
So
that's
also
why,
for that,
they say, you're so sick. A lot of women are so sick in the first trimester. And my advice from what I've read is just be okay. Just stay hydrated. Your body can handle this. It's not like your baby is taking a lot of caloric needs from you at that point. Your body can handle this. Just stay hydrated, because everything is set. Is that you're not building a whole lot right now. I mean, you're building, but the trajectory
you're
is
growing.
Yeah.
And so the preconception phase is really important. And then what I also learned is that there's actually way more fertility around than we are led to believe when it comes to being older. Because I found, so the Joy of Older Motherhood is a book. It's all about the stories of real women who conceived the first child naturally over the age of 40, and then some of them went on to have 3 children. So that was my parameter, because first I thought just, women over 40 being first-time moms. But then I noticed that most of the women that I interview had natural conception. So this is then I focused on that only or primarily. And I never went onto my social media platforms to say, hey, I'm writing this book. Are you one of them? I never did that. I never even once went to a forum to find the women to interview. I only asked in my circle of friends. By then I knew some other women in Washington, D.C. who had the children already in the 40s. And it was only word of mouth that within 2 months, I had found over 60 women who had conceived naturally in their 40s. Yeah. And were willing to talk to me about their experience in less than 2 months without social media, without going to forums. That's also when I noticed, hang on a second, theoretically, statistically, all these women only had a 5% chance of falling pregnant. I was like, there's something not right in this. And what's not right is that the women who fall pregnant, the couples who have the children, naturally, we are not in a statistic, Sarah. We're not in there. Like the best statistics or the best data that is used for the most precise data that is used for most of the statistics, not all of them, but most of the statistics come from the infertility clinics themselves, because that's their job. That's the success rate.
Oh, interesting.
They keep immaculate records of their patients, of course. And then, the more pregnancies that happening through whatever the procedure that they're performing, that's good for the success rate. This is good for their marketing. Then say, oh yeah, our clinic has, we have helped that many people to become pregnant and so on, that many couples, women. So they keep immaculate records. And these records are often used as the baseline or the majority for the statistics that we see. But Sarah, I am not in any statistic. When I showed up at the midwives pregnant, this just said to me, oh, so how did you get pregnant? I said, naturally. And she just marked the check mark under spontaneous pregnancy. And that was it. Nobody asked me a thing. Nobody. Same thing with the other women in the Joy of Later Motherhood. They are not in a statistic. So what we are seeing, that the scary headlines, they are not presenting us the full picture.
Yeah.
I believe there's way more fertility over the age of 35 and 40 out there than we are led to believe. And that is important for women to know, so they are not going into the whole process with so much fear and anxiety, because that is super counterproductive.
Well, you're saying that the pregnancy, I mean, it's amazing anybody gets pregnant anyway. You look at the statistics of how many pregnancies actually stick. It's like 3%, right? It's tiny. So you're saying 5%. So you're saying basically that we've kind of gotten ourselves into this like mental funk, this puzzle. We've created this for ourselves, for women in their 40s, that your fertility doesn't have to decline in your 40s. It can be as strong as when you're in your 30s, right?
Look, the narrative that is presented to us as women who want to get pregnant, the narrative out there is focused primarily on all the things that can go wrong with your body and using statistics and data to support that. And yet, again, the statistics, we don't get the full picture.
Because
cannot
we're not
tell
tracking how many 25-year-olds lose babies, but we're tracking how many 45-year-olds lose babies.
Or just to get or just to get pregnant.
It just takes a little longer sometimes.
Yeah, it takes longer, but the older you get, the less time you're given.
Yeah, that's true too.
Yeah, before you labeled infertile, so under 35, you usually have a year before your doctor raises any question. Between 35 and 40, the rule, so to speak, is try for 6 months. But
because they're worried that you're going to try for 4 years and be older and older and older. So it's not so much that you're less fertile, or the expectations. Yeah. So it kind of messes with our head and our expectation that it must be harder to get pregnant. No, they just want you to. Okay. So if you're having a baby at 40 is totally fine, totally natural, really, and there are a lot of people doing it just fine, then what is the upper limit? Are we going to see women having babies normally into their 50s, or is there like, where's Because we're saying 35 is a geriatric pregnancy. Where do you think the line then is where you're like, okay, step back, maybe reassess your situation and your choices at 55? Like, what are we doing? What do you think?
Yeah, I really don't know where this geriatric pregnancy and advanced maternal age really came from, but I can tell you that 100 years ago, yeah, in the 1920s, women had the last child when they were already grandmothers.
Right. They were
So
having babies
47,
until
48,
menopause.
exactly 47, 48. I spoke to one of the Chinese traditional Chinese medicine practitioners in this fertility world, and he said, in traditional Chinese medicine, they 49, they do everything in 7-year cycles. 49 is you're at least fertile until 49.
Oh,
It is also a cultural perception, yeah, that puts you into a certain age group. Or in 1920, when they, I just remember that in 1920, the average age of women having the last children was 42 years old. The average age
whoa.
of the last child, that is 100 years ago, when life expectancy was a lot shorter
Yeah.
than it is today. So I think our time of fertility is shortened by perception, by the narrative that's out there telling you it goes down, and but also life in the third millennia, in the 21st century, because of all the toxicity that we are having, of all the not knowing about it,
That makes a lot of
the
sense.
stressful lifestyle that we have, the food supply that we have. It's not the same anymore as it was 100 years ago. It's a combination of both, and that's why we need to be so aware of, first of all, have a different mindset around it. Just take a super deep breath and don't take on the statistics, these negative headlines that can really do harm to you mentally and emotionally, and take this on so that we can shut this out a little bit, yeah. And at the same token, but become very aware of the stressful life that we're leading. Look, I mean, if you are running 100 miles an hour and not take the time for really good food, for nourishing, whatever you like to do, yoga, for self-love, for self-nourishment, to be optimal, in optimal health, if you don't have the time to do that, you need to think about this first and say, okay, what is it that I can do? So it's a combination, I feel, of blocking out all this negativity that can make you crazy, yeah, and then go really inward and say, okay, what is it that I need to do? Because Sarah, you had your children much earlier in life. I'm telling you, this is so. Infertility is, let's talk about this.
So
Infertility, yeah, I know this is
No.
infertility is real. It's absolutely real.
Yes.
Eight couples, every 8 couple in America struggles with infertility. I think every 6 in Australia. So this is absolutely real. What is also real is that our fertility does decline over the years, of course, because at some point in our lives, all of us are going into menopause, when we are stop menstruating, and we enter the next awesome phase in our life. But when that menopause time comes, is completely individual, because today, Sarah, we see, I'm sure you know this, we see women in their 30s. I spoke to one, she was 37, menopause, done, that's it. In your 30s, or we have women in their 50s, and I'm like, I'm far away from that.
I know some people in their early 60s, and I'm like, really? We're doing
exactly.
this? Wow.
Look at this time span. There is a big difference in between when this happens. There's a huge difference in between your chronological age and your biological age. And what I'm saying is, we cannot judge a woman's health and fertility by her age only. We can't do that.
That makes a lot of sense. Well, and then but that's also part of the argument to have your children younger, because you never know when menopause is going to hit. But at the same time, you're saying you're the third generation of women to give birth in their 40s, so you can kind of look to your mother and your sisters to see what's going on, right? And then it doesn't have to be that.
Yeah, yes, yes. And I think the healthier your lifestyle, and this is something that I really want to also give our viewers, that are listeners, that are younger, our lifestyle has, like, fertility is an extension of your overall health.
It's so true.
So the better we live today,
Mm-hmm.
the idea that the longer we can stay fertile.
Yeah.
So even younger women, when we talk about infertility now, we have the wrong conversation. We really make it about age, putting the older women into that, oh my God, I waited too long kind of bucket.
Mm-hmm.
And for the younger women who do struggle, I mean, we have 20-year-olds, we have late teenagers, I've heard of them. Like, we have couples that are struggling, they're very young and they struggle to get pregnant. And they are under extreme pressure because she may think, oh my God, I'm so young. What's wrong with me? I should have the children just like this.
Mm-hmm.
And it is not that easy. We are having the wrong conversation. It should be about health.
Well, and also that brings up a lot of fertility just in our mindset. We expect the woman, it's her responsibility, but health-wise, health in all those areas you're talking about, what about the sperm? What about the man?
Yep.
What, if how much of the young infertility is actually a chemical or a toxicity problem in the male,
Yes.
and his sperm is just little swimmers are not doing well.
Sarah, I just read the statistic the other day that in the Western world today, and they did not give any age, the doctor that reported that didn't give any age. So I'm guessing it's whatever they're looking from 18 to, I don't know what, 58, whatever, that I don't know, it doesn't matter. That in the Western world, in between 52 and 57% of men today have a sperm count so little that they are infertile. This is over 50% of men, but we are still making infertility about women.
Women, yeah.
Well, hello?
Well, I know I read somewhere that we think that our systems are complicated. The male system is equally as complicated. To get those little swimmers created correctly, that is, I mean, just look at the temperature differential of the testicles and all the things that have to happen. Yes. Like, how does anybody make any sperm?
Yeah, or getting drunk on beer for one night influences your sperm for, I don't know how many weeks to come. I mean, this is crazy.
Wow.
And we are only talking about the women. This is a 50-50 thing.
This is a yeah.
And we have to focus on health primarily, not on age.
Yeah.
And the younger we are realizing that, like, if you're now 30 or 35 and you have not found the partner that you would like to have your children with, or the situation is just not right yet, then please be mindful that everything, what the lifestyle that you have today determines or influences strongly the fertility that you will have in 5 or in 10 years from now. So
and
being
for
mindful,
all ages, honestly, all ages.
All ages, exactly. What you're doing today will show up in your face. What, the lifestyle that you have today will show up visibly in your face, with wrinkles or not, and will show up internally just as much in 5 years, in 10 years, in 15 years from now. So we need to be very, very mindful about the life that we are living today and think a little bit further ahead. And what drives me crazy? The supposedly best age to have a child is not just fertility, but I don't know what the factors are that are coming together, but like 28, you should, and after 28, you shouldn't. But 28 is really, really good. And I'm thinking, you and I, we know this. Everybody who has a child or more than one child, we know this is not just about giving birth. This is about raising human beings, guiding them for 20 years.
Exactly. We've been talking about a lot of the health, the fertility stuff, but there's a whole other side. And we talked a little bit before the recording, and it's that you were able to sit with your son and look at those cherry blossoms, having a lifetime of experience and processes in your brain that allowed you to experience it on a different level. I know when I was young with 4 tinies, I mean, I nursed and was pregnant back to back for 9 years, like with almost no break. And I just thought, I wonder how much of the hard stuff that happened to me as a young mother was because of my immaturity, emotionally and spiritually. And the fact that I put my body through something that emotionally and spiritually, I didn't know what was going on. And how much would change if we do kind of joke that older mothers are more helicopter parents, but I don't think that's such a derogatory term. You now have the time and the life skills to see what dangers are up here with your son. And, the parent teacher conferences or this and that, with your life skills, what's going on. And you are a better protector, I think, right? As you're older. So that's just my own thoughts. It's that we're so pushed to have children young, and yet it's so hard to be broke and pregnant at the same time.
Yes, honey. Yes,
So
I hear
hard.
you. Exactly.
I know I didn't have cavities and I didn't have any health issues until I had my first baby, but we couldn't afford good food. And I had the government program, and I just didn't eat well, and it affected my last pregnancy. Was my healthiest, and I was the oldest because I had better food, had better support, and I could have had that anyway. It's just so it's not just the fertility, it's the life. Okay, but then my other question then is, on the flip side, I'm going to be a young grandma. I'm going to be done with these kids by the time I don't know the math, but pretty young. And they're going to be out of my house, and I'm going to be able to travel, and I'm going to be able to do all the things in my career. So it's not that I missed out on anything, it's I flipped. And the worry sometimes is, if you have your baby too old, then you're dead by the time your grandkids come, right?
Yes, I hear you.
So speak to that.
Let's unpack that. Look, I think there's pros and cons for every age group. I'm a firm believer that I'm actually not saying you should wait. If you feel that you have a good situation right now, the right partner, financial stability, you just into that, I think is very, very important. And that you have a maybe also a support system or so. Have your children when their time is right for you, but don't be pressured into having them younger than
I would
you
say
would
the
want
support system is more important than the monetary system, because we've been having babies in poverty for the last 50,000 million generations, right? But it's the support system. If grandma, mother-in-law, sisters, friends, aunties, they're not in your picture and you're alone, that's, I think, the bigger
then you need to have the finances to hire the help, to hire the support system. So for me, it's really, when you are in a really good place, I would say, then have the children. And for some of us, so there's pros and cons for every age. But for me, so for example, when you think about so I was 44. So there's the idea of, then you have less time with your child and you'd be super old once the child leaves the house. For that, I want to say that we have statistics today. It's very interesting. And I was looking for them. I'm sorry. So I may not be quoting. I cannot say it exactly. I cannot quote the study right now because I couldn't find my notes. But there was a statistic that was released just a couple of years ago where they looked at I think 900 women. And it turns out that the women that had children after the age of 31 are the ones that have a life expectancy for 95 years of age. So it turns out that the women that had the children later, they have a longer life expectancy. So you will have enough time with your child, and also the cognitive abilities decline less in women that have the children later in life than the ones that have the children earlier, which is also very interesting. That was news to me.
Well, because you exercise your brain when you have a young child, so
that could be part of it. I don't know, it doesn't really go into the explanation as of why, but you have longer life expectancy, better cognitive function the older you get. So there's like their physical pluses to being to having the children later, but there's also, of course, you already brought this up, there's more of financial stability. Is when you find your partner later in life, the chances that you can grow together are pretty high than if you come together like right after high school, where people often go into different directions after a while. So the stability of the relationship is there. The financial background that you can hire the support that you need, because it does take a village. I mean, it is what it, the saying doesn't come from nowhere. There's, it really does. So these beautiful benefits to being older, then and you just have to weigh them.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I would not say, okay, just wait
No.
intentionally until you're
Well,
in your
yeah,
40s.
there's a lot of people that say wait because you need to be financially stable or you did, and you're
Yeah.
saying no, just
Mm-mm.
have a baby whenever it's right, and if it's in your 40s, then embrace it and let's do this.
Yes, exactly. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. If you, for whatever reason, find yourself at the age of 38 and say, "Oh, now is my time. I really would love it now," then be it. This is exactly. I'm not saying you should wait until 38 or 44. I'm not saying that. But if you find yourself into the situation of being a little bit older when you come towards motherhood, then celebrate that. Don't fear it.
Yeah.
Step into
Yep.
it with power.
And I'm sure you've experienced some ageism. And what would you say to people that are experiencing ageism?
Look, so there's always the like there's okay, hang on a second. So there's the fear of being called grandmother. Will they
Yeah.
think that I'm the grandmother or the mother? Will that happen to you? Yes, it will. But it's not a reflection of you or what you look like. It's a reflection of the people that are saying this, because we all have stories attached to an age.
Mm-hmm.
Like where you live, Sarah, the general conversation is, oh, you need to be a mother by 35 or at the latest by 25 or at the latest at 30, otherwise you're old.
Yeah.
In the country, in the part of the country that I live in Washington, D.C., the story is very different. The story is, oh, you're 30 and having a child, that's quite young, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, but these are all just constructs. These are all just stories, not based in reality. This is just what people do here,
Yep.
you know. So there you have that, and so it happened to me. Hunter was maybe a few months old, and it was in the summer, and we were in Southern Virginia at a farmer's market, and I'm talking to a lovely lady, and we're having a nice conversation, and then I say something that dated me. I said something, I made a cultural reference, and I could see in her mind she's doing the math and she's realizing that I'm older than I look. And she was like, and I could see this in her face. She did the math and like, and all of a sudden, she wasn't quite sure. She was like, are you mom or grandma? You know, it's like, but only because of what I said. And so, will they think you could be grandmother? Yes, but it's not a reflection of who you are. It's a reflection of who they are, where they come from, and the stories that are told in their environment.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it. That's literally it. And if you go gray by now, which I don't because I color my hair, but today you have so many on Instagram women that are celebrating their gray hair, or now coming out of the pandemic, so many women in the 30s are going really silvery, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
because that's just what happened, and we hadn't seen the hairdresser for some time, so it becomes also so normalized.
Yeah.
So I would not use this as any kind of, oh my God, they're going to do it. Yeah, they are. So what? Do you know what I mean? It's like, so what?
Mm-hmm. Wow, fascinating. Okay, so we've kind of, you said there were three myths to later motherhood, and we've kind of hit them all.
Yeah.
Time, energy, and being called a grandma.
Yeah. For the energy, I really want to say that look, we all know, you were much younger than I was when I had Hunter, that having little children is exhausting, no matter what. But when you're younger, you can just say, I'm exhausted. This is like taking so much out of me. If you're older and you say, I am exhausted, that takes so much out of me, people will say, oh, yeah, that's because you're not young anymore.
Yeah, yeah. I was gonna say also back to the whole mental health thing. Does it take more physical or mental energy to survive young motherhood? I would say for me, it was mostly mental stamina. Have so many kids so close together. I mean, as a 40-year-old, I probably could handle that a lot better. I mean, my life is crazier and busier now than it was when my kids were tiny. And no, I'm not being woken up 50 times a night, by a nursling, I, but I also wasn't back then either. I figured out the co-sleeping thing. I was like, yeah, what was that excuse? I think it was just the taxation of bad nutrition and not really being prepared for that many kids so fast. That
Mhm.
that zapped my energy. And I think
Yeah.
if I were to do the whole thing again, I have a better support. My husband's an actual human now instead of a teenage boy, because men they mature, their frontal cortex matures later. He's a great dad, but man, he got better. He ripened with age, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
There's really something to be said, and you hinted to that before. Exactly. Energy is not just a physical affair. Energy is also the mental part. Is really big. And when you have a worry about money, that saps your energy like no other.
Yeah. Well, my mom has energy for miles for her grandkids, and she has way more grandkids than she had kids. So
yeah, it is like we just think about energy as something physical, but there's so much more to that. And if you like relationships, they sap energy like no other if they're not working the way you were hoping. These are the things that really sap energy. It's not just that we get older, and again, but we also need to bring it back to the point that the older you are, the better in shape you should be before you even try. Because there's one thing I also knew when I conceived Hunter, I gave up my right to sit on the couch at 50 or 55 and bitch and moan about my ailments, and read the paper and watch TV. I gave up that right when I conceived him, because our children, they really, it's our responsibility, the older we get, to have the better lifestyle, the ultimately good lifestyle for all of us, because our children deserve our time, our energy, going out with them in nature, being essentially really young in our attitude and what we show them. We cannot just give in and now sit on the couch on the weekends and watch just Netflix. That right is out of the window. We have this responsibility to really, really take super care of ourselves, to move forward with them and give them the lifestyle and the activity level that they deserve.
Yeah.
It's super important.
Amazing. Well, I really, really enjoyed this conversation. This is fascinating.
Me too.
We should just make this, if you're over 40 and you haven't had your children yet, you must listen to this episode. I just love that you're such an eloquent and strong voice and advocate for older mothers. And I believe, that we can change that. I've said this before, but I'll say this about this episode specifically, that I hope that this is obsolete in 15 years, that our daughters will look back and be like, really, Mom, you thought that it was dumb to have a baby in your 40s? Like, really, your culture, you're just as we think our great grandmas were having babies at 40 and they didn't, something shifted. We can shift it back.
Yes.
Because our great grandmas didn't think that was weird. So let's shift it back and let's stop the ageism. Yeah. Somebody I was talking to recently was talking about ageism within for children and how we expect them to be less than human because they're younger. And we almost do the same thing for our older people. This is so dumb.
Yeah. Listen, we are totally like, this is why I said out to write the book. I want to shift the narrative. This is crazy pants narrative. This is old. Nobody needs it anymore. And also moving like from your 40s into your 50s, into your 60s. The stories, the ageism is not changed from the outside in. It's changed from the inside out.
I love it, and
we are doing it.
I love the energy you bring to it, because you're right. You give up your right or your privilege to sit on the couch and whine and bitch and moan because you've now got a toddler going on, or a school age child, and maybe that's what keeps you young. Maybe.
Yeah, it does. It does too. It does too. It does too. And it's like, it's also, it's a choice how we want to age. It's also a choice. What are the stories that we tell ourselves about our age?
Wow. It's so good.
Choice how we want to age.
Wow.
And so we are changing this, Sarah. We are changing the whole narrative from the inside out through our examples, through us taking a stand for, hey, look at this. This is awesome.
Well, I want to be here for, you just the math, 40-year-old mom and dying at 95. That is a very long, there's plenty of time for more grandchildren and great grandchildren. So let's stop the narrative. Oh, I love it. I love it. Okay. So you mentioned midway how they get your book, but tell the listeners how they can find all the things.
So my website is bettinagordon.com, and Bettina is with a BETTINA GORDON, BettinaGordon.com /joy.
Perfect. Awesome.
JOY.
Joy. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. Again, thank you for being a
It
voice.
is my pleasure. Sarah, thank you. I just love about having these conversations because this is how we change the narrative. So thank you very much for having me.
Yep,
I love it. Thank you.
Please visit us at birthcircle.com, join our Facebook groups, or find us on Instagram and Pinterest. We hope you'll use our resources to support your birthing experience.